All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm Vincent Devall with Eagle Homes. I'm here with Adam Zeman with A to Z Mortgage Team. Brad Brewer is getting ready. He's on, but getting ready to go join us with video here in a minute. So welcome. We're Facebook Live. Wanted to start with a couple different things today. We're going to talk about. I'm going to do a quick comparison to what the real estate market's been doing over the last few months. And I'm going to compare a May to June comparison to August to September, leave July out as that buffer month, but kind of give you an idea of where things are going and trending to, what we have to look forward to and what's driving some of this. And then Adam's going to talk a little bit about a couple programs that he has that we believe can be very beneficial to buyers and sellers on both hands. We had a great conversation about it, I think, yesterday. So I'm going to have him share some of that. We'll have a little bit of Q&A on that. And then we'll have a little bit of fun at the end. So I'll start, just give you a little comparison. I told you May through June. So May 1st to June 30th, and then August 1st to September 30th or 31st, whatever it is. So one thing I want you to remember, if homes sold on May 1st, they hit the market roughly 45 days prior to that. So what that means is if it sold on, or say May 2nd, it was on the market around March 15th. So, keep that in mind that those homes sat there, average days on the market were 45 days from the time they listed to the time they actually closed on the deal. So some quick comparisons. Solds in May through June, 1,448. August to September, 1,387. So not a huge difference on the numbers sold, but we definitely saw a little bit of a decline in what the market was doing in those months comparably. This is the biggest difference right here. New listings. May to June, 2,153 new listings. August to September, 1,679. So that's a huge difference. Just under 500 new listings hit the market. Now, some of that's attributed to summer. Everyone wants to, move during the summertime where they don't have to take kids out of school or disrupt, sports, things like that. And then obviously August and September, we're going back to school. Kids, family vacations are just tying up. Kids are back in school. So a little bit different. But current activity in May to June, the ones that were on the market, stay on the market, 910. So they were turning them over very fast. That was our average for homes currently on the market. When you look at August, 2,160 actives, August to September. So that tells you that homes are sitting a little bit longer. Inventory is starting to build up. Inventory is still very low, comparably speaking. But there's more opportunity out there for our sellers. The biggest difference is expired, extended, and back on market. So these are homes that did not sell during the time that they thought they would sell. So whatever the contract was on that home, May to June, 814 homes did not sell during that time that they were expected. August, September, 1,016 properties. So, you wonder what that tells us. Tells us a few things. Welcome, Brad. Thanks for joining us. Tells us a few things. That one, they're probably not being priced right. They're not marketed to the right group of people, and they're not showing well. So one little tip is if you're thinking about listing your home, you want to make it, as showable as possible. I did a quick video a few weeks ago. It's on our YouTube channel. It's the 5 steps to selling your home in today's market. So it talks about a lot of great key points. You may want to watch it, but it's a great opportunity to figure out what you need to do to get ahead of everybody else. So, like I said, we need, if you're listing your home today, you need to make sure we're marketing your home to sell using all the tools, open houses, social media, networking, print media, things like that. It's priced right, and your agent is in tune with what's happening. That's the biggest thing. I think agents still think that the houses are going to flip off them, get off the market right away, but they're not. They're sitting longer. We're seeing price reductions and so forth. So make sure your house is ready to show. It's clean, repairs are done, just the simple things. So that's my tips for today. That's kind of where the market's going. What we've seen over the last 4 months per se. But there's still a lot of great opportunity to buy and sell today. And that's where, Adam's going to talk a little bit about a couple programs that they have, which I think are great programs and what rates are doing today. And then we'll, go into a little bit of other stuff.
All right. Good morning. All good information. Thanks.
Yep.
So there's a program that, we're doing, or it's actually been around for a long time, but I don't know, it didn't really matter. It was something that, when rates were in the threes, it wasn't applicable, So it's called a 2-1 buy down option. And essentially what that is the seller pays for this buy down option where, let's just say today's interest rate is 7%. Okay. The first year that you close, you're going to be at 5%. And then the second year you would be at 6%. And then the third year you would be at like 7%. So the thought process is, it's likely that anybody purchasing right now is going to end up refinancing. They do project rates to go down in the next year or two. So this would be a situation where you would probably be able to realize a lower rate and then refinance into that rate close to what you're at that point. Meaning you might be able to get into the fives, late next year or early the following year. So it's a good opportunity for people that are, they're looking at homes, especially, there's a good price point where it's like, those $400,000, $500,000 homes, a 2% difference in interest rate is a pretty big deal. You're talking about a good amount of money at that point. So it's a tool to use. The rules are, the buyer cannot pay for it, so it has to come through seller contributions and or interesting parties. So actually a real estate agent could contribute money towards doing that if that conversation started. Also for listing a home, and I think this is where the math comes in really cool too. So let's just say you have a home that you've listed or you're selling and it's been on the market for a while because it's in that $350,000, $400,000 range. And, the payment difference between people buying that home in May to now is a pretty good amount. So then you're having a conversation maybe with your sellers and sellers are saying, maybe we need to price this differently. Well, instead of reducing the actual price of the home by, let's just say $10,000 or $15,000, why don't you market it as this 2-1 buy down option? The sellers are going to pay the seller contribution. They'll actually end up saving some money because they won't reduce it as much. And it's a better deal for both people, meaning that person's going to get into that house for a payment that's closer to probably what they want. And reducing a house by 10 or 15,000, it doesn't really knock the payment down that much. It doesn't do much at all. But 2 points in interest rate does. So again, kind of sum it up. You lock in today at 7%. I'm just using a 7% as a round number here.
Yep.
The first payment starts at 5%. So the first year you're at 5%. The year after you're at 6%. And the third year, then you're at that 7% for the length of the loan. So whatever you lock in today would be your third year rates, but you start two rates below that. Okay, so if it's 7.25, you're going to start at 5.25, so on and so forth.
So, and can I interrupt? I got a quick question about that. Like, we talk math all the time. Let's say we are a $300,000 house, at 5% interest. What's that payment look like?
So let's just do. I got my calculator here.
Perfect. Yep.
Okay, so let's just do a $300,000 loan amount, not purchase price, loan amount.
Yeah, loan amount, right?
Okay, 30-year term, and what'd you say for interest?
Let's do the 5%. Then we'll go to 6. Then we'll
5% interest. Your payment is $1,610. Okay, so that's just principal and interest.
Yep.
Okay.
What's 6% look like?
6% interest. Almost 18, so it's $1,798.
So in their first year, they're going to save $188 a month times 12 months.
Well, no, they would actually save because they would, again, they're locking at 7%. So really you're saving between 7 and 5.
Right. Okay. So what's the 7% now?
7% interest.
Yep. That's
almost $2,000. So 1995.
1995.
Minus,
So 1995 to 1610. So $385 for the first 12 months.
correct.
Which is do that math. $385 for 12 times 12.
4,600 bucks.
What is $188 times 12?
$2,256.
So in the first, in the first 2 years on a $300,000 loan, they're going to save $6,900 roughly.
Correct.
So that's awesome for our buyers. And it's a great tool, like you said, for our sellers to offer that because, obviously people are going to refinance. Now, let's be honest, I'm a gambler. So I would be the type of person I'd be like, all right, I'm at 5% today. Interest rates are going to go to, my interest rate's going to go to 6% next year, 7% the following year. Well, all of a sudden I see an interest rate for, they start dropping, they get to 6%. I'm like, man, do I refinance and save that 1 percentage? Or do I wait to see if it drops to 5.5? What is it? What's a good rule of thumb on one to refinance?
So I would say at least a half on a $300,000 loan amount, so 0.5%.
Okay.
I would say that's a pretty decent rule. It really depends on your situation. For me, I personally want to see a full point, to really see the difference, but it just depends on where you're at. I think if you're going from 7 to 6.5, but if you're going from 7 to maybe 6.25, I think that's probably worth it. Now you're locked in for the term of the loan at 6.25. I think that's probably, that you probably want to roll the dice on that. I don't know. No one has a crystal ball, but I can tell you,
right.
we talked to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and they still really project interest rates to be lower by this time next year. Okay. Will that happen? Who knows? No one really knows. They can say what they think, but what actually happens, we're not going to know until next year. So
Yep.
you lock into something right now, you could be, they think in 2 years, we'll probably be in the, maybe 4s or 5s, that will be where we probably level off. I don't think we're going to be, 2.5 or 3%, but hey, 4.5 or 5% is that's pretty good, So yeah, I think.
Hey, Adam.
Yeah, go ahead.
On your comment, I was kind of going in and out there. So if you said this, I apologize. But I'd like a little more detail on the buy down. So I think you gave the example that you could basically do a buy down and it's a recalculation of your mortgage payment. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. What if someone comes in the next couple months and the interest rate's decent and then it does go up, but they want to do a buy down? Can they do a buy down at any time, or are there parameters around that? What's kind of the difference there?
So no, I mean, once you lock in an interest rate, are you saying like once it changes, or once they've already purchased a home, or what do you?
Well, you mentioned you could take a good amount of cash and buy down kind of your principal, redo a recalculation of your mortgage payment. Obviously, you might want to do that based on some sort of interest rate change or non-interest rate change. When can you do that? Can you just call and request, say, hey, I actually like my interest rate, but I got an extra $50,000 I'd like to pay my mortgage down.
Okay.
How can I get can I adjust my payment?
Yeah, so it just depends on the servicer. And you typically call them and just get you basically are going to re-amortization, re-am it all for whatever you're going to put down. I think there's a minimum. It's usually like $5,000 you need to do to recalculate that payment. And that's just a servicer. That just depends on the servicer. I think most servicers are doing it. And if it's a situation for me and you
Okay.
know you're gonna do that in the future, I can mark the loan accordingly, so it gets serviced accordingly.
Okay.
To say you're like, hey, man, I know I'm gonna have $30,000, you know, in a year or 6 months, and I definitely want to chunk down that principal and change my payment. Then I can mark the loan and we can, you know, we can adjust that accordingly.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you for
Thank you.
answering that.
Yeah, and so to be clear, that's two different programs that we're talking about here. You know, the 2-1 buy down is different than what you're referring to, right, Adam?
Correct.
Yep.
Correct.
Yeah. So the 2-1 buy down, what's that? So what would that cost a seller on a $300,000 loan?
So
What is that?
that's where it's a little tricky. It's an actual calculation. So it's
Okay.
something we kind of plug into a calculator. If you're doing a conventional loan, do 3% concessions. That should more than cover it and plus some of the costs.
Okay.
As we're talking about it with my secondary market, and if people don't know what secondary market is, that's like the gurus that in my company that are just doing they're looking at rates and they're buying and selling money, and they're like the financial guys of a mortgage company.
Yep.
So, you know, as they explain it to me, they're like, just get, you know, if you're getting 2.5% to 3% concessions, it should be fine. But again, we do have a little calculator I can use to make sure we're getting enough.
Gotcha. So yeah. And I think we talked about like that 3 to 4% typically would cover the buy down plus some, right?
Plus some, yeah.
Plus
So
some.
4% is only applicable for like an FHA loan, 3% max for conventional, 6 for FHA government loans.
Yep. What are there any restrictions to that 2-1 buy down from the buyer's side? Like, is there, you know, credit requirements or, you know?
No, not that I know of. You know, we just started doing it. It just opened up last week, so I'm, you know, still kind of new to it. So there might be questions I might have, but no, not to my knowledge. Again, whatever rate you're going to lock in today, you're going to have that rate regardless, you know, and that's your 30-year rate. So there really shouldn't be any restrictions to my knowledge. But again, it's something, you know, I'll have to go through the learning curve too, you know, as I do 1 or 2 of them. There's just a couple forms to fill out from what I can tell, it's pretty easy.
Yeah, it seems like a great program for, you know, at least the buyers to start with, and from a seller standpoint, you know, if you can offer that early on, like you said, instead of, you know, dropping their price $10,000, you know, it could be more enticing to a buyer to have that 2-1 buy down,
Yeah.
you know, right off the gate, and you know, but it's about educating both the seller and the buyer and what that means, and other agents too, right? Like if an agent has no idea what a 2-1 buy down is, then they're not going to be able to explain it to their buyer. So I think it's very important to have part of that as, you know, talking points too. So
Sure.
it's definitely very helpful. So thank you on that. So Adam, where are interest rates today? What are we looking at? I know earlier this week I saw, you know, national average over 7. You know, what are you seeing for your interest rates?
So, I mean, I can't exactly quote interest rates without giving APR, so on and so forth, but I can tell you for a government FHA mortgage, you're probably looking at the mid-6s, and for a conventional mortgage, you're probably looking at the low 7s. You know?
Okay.
And all dependent on your credit score, down payment, so on and so forth. That's just a generalization of where they are for people.
Right. There's other factors that play into that. I mean, you know, looking at it, I saw a graph the other day, the 42-year average for interest rates, you know, I saw it was 8.15%, you know, and that's just an average, right? That's just saying, you know, it's all going to depend. So we're still lower than what the average has been for the last 42 years. And programs like what you just explained are still a great way. You know, if I'm in at 6.5 and I can get down to 4.5 for a full year, that I'd be ecstatic. My problem would be is when do I decide to turn that over so that I'm not paying that 6.5?
That's where you just lean on someone like me. I'm going to call you and just say, hey, this is maybe a good idea, or let's run some numbers. Let's actually talk about this. You know, that's the benefit to me. I mean, I'm going to do at least 1 or 2 mortgage checks with you every year to make sure you're in the right situation, the right interest rate. Maybe talk about, you know, if you want to reduce your term, so on and so forth. You know, what's really not to be off topic, what's really interesting is yesterday we looked at the average. We looked at the loan amounts, the max loan amounts for conventional mortgages. Okay. So
Yep.
almost the whole time I've been originating loans, they've been 417. Okay. And I'm gonna pull it up because I think maybe I'm just geeking on it. I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, no.
Because they're pretty high now. And they were 417 until 2016. 2017, they went to 424, 18, 453, 19, 484, 20, 510, 21, 548, 22, 647, 23 is going to be 700,000 is the minimum loan amount for conventional mortgage.
Wow.
So between basically 16 to 23, 2023,
Yeah.
it went up from 417 to $700,000. That's how the increase in prices have been for, purchase prices. That's what's driving that minimum loan amount.
Right. Right. So when you say minimum, I think of like that's the lowest loan amount that I could take out for a conventional.
Correct.
Yep. Okay.
So you could always put, if you had 500,000, and the minimum loan amount was 417, you can bridge the gap between the two of them and bring that money in. But
Yeah.
the max loan amount, I'm sorry, the max loan amount is 417. So that's the max they're going to loan to you.
Yep. Yep. So, but today or next year, we're going to see over 700,000 that they'd be willing
It's
to loan.
700. It was going to be 720, which is crazy.
Okay.
But the consumer price index came out and the home values aren't increasing as fast as they thought they were. So they reduced it to 700.
Obviously, but still a $283,000 difference from 6 or 7 years ago, right? That's a huge jump. But I mean, that just tells us what the market's done over the last 6 years and how it's just constantly climbing and climbing. But it's probably good that they said, okay, we're not climbing as fast, but let's change that a little bit. So great opportunity. Before we tie up here, wanted to throw out, we talked about having just a little bit of fun. Favorite vacation spot. I want to end on something a little fun for, our watchers. What's our favorite vacation spots? We got 4 or 5 minutes here before we cut out, but let's throw one or two out, that is your favorite vacation spot. Go ahead. Adam, I'll let you go first.
All right. I still think probably Florida most likely because I go there during when it's cold here.
Yeah.
And it's a good break, from maybe in February or March when I go there, and it's a little depressing here in Wisconsin, and it's seeing the beach and the sun and just the vibes, and I think that's probably my favorite place. And then I like to ski and stuff in winter, go to the mountains. I do go to Arizona quite a bit. I have family there, so we go rip around the desert and side by sides or buggies or however you want to. Everybody calls them a little different. But,
Right.
For me, that's a great day if I can get in one of those, have a few beers, and rip around the desert all day or in the mountains. I'm having a good time.
That's awesome. Oh, why do we have feedback?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. You want mine now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Other than any golf trip anywhere, my favorite's always been when we go on a cruise, West Caribbean, the stop at the shoot, what island is it? I just went blank. It's an island right off the east coast of Mexico. Starts with a C. It'll come to me. But Pancho's is the little Mexican restaurant we stop at. We sit there on the beach, eat on the beach, hang out in the hammock, enjoy some delicious beverages, alcoholic or non-alcoholic, of course. That's my favorite spot. But overall, I love cruising. We love cruising. It's fun. I miss it. We haven't done it since COVID. So hopefully we get to enjoy those activities again soon.
Yeah, I think COVID put a damper on everyone's vacations. But, I think during COVID, people found different ways to have vacations, either, Airbnbs or more personal things. I've been back there a few times. I'm kind of torn. I have two. Love Arizona. just everything about it. But I'm going to go with Nashville. Now I love country music. You know, I actually proposed to my wife down there in Nashville. Been down there a few times, going back in November. But if you get down there during the week, it's not as crowded as the weekends, which is great. So you can get into all the little bars, you know, hear some just great I mean, it's everything from country music to rock to R&B, a little bit of everything down there. It's really cool. And you could stay a couple blocks off the strip or Uber. But then there's other things like the Grand Ole Opry, Opryland, the Opryland Resort. Really, you know, just great things to do. Even doing like some of their trolley rides where you get to hear, you know, about the different houses or different events that are going on. So I'm gonna have to go with Nashville. That's probably one of my favorites currently, and we'll be back there in November. So looking forward to that. But yeah, so that's all we got for today, man. Adam, great information. I appreciate it. Definitely looking forward to using, you know, those programs or that program specifically. So hopefully we can help our, you know, buyers and sellers, you know, by utilizing something like that. So
Yeah,
thanks
absolutely.
again. And all right, have a great week, everyone.
All right, see you.